Veteran missed his interview to help a stranded woman. Unaware she owned the veteran-run company, I stepped into the Valor Works conference room, straightened my tie, and froze. Standing at the head of the table, calm, confident, and very familiar, was the woman I'd stopped to help on Route 42, the same woman I'd missed my only job interview for. Only now she wasn't a stranded stranger. She was the founder of a veteran-run company that could change my life. Morning light spills gently across the modest two-story home on Maple Street, where a faded American flag sways in the cool Ohio breeze. Inside, Jack Carter stands before a mirror, straightening the same tie he wore at his wedding years ago, the fabric now slightly frayed, but full of memories. On the dresser rests a framed photo of him in uniform, flanked by medals that once defined his life, symbols of sacrifice and service. Today, however, none of those matter as much as the interview waiting ahead. The kitchen smells of coffee and toast as his 10-year-old son, Luke, bounds in, his small feet thudding against the worn hardwood floor. "You're gonna crush it, Dad," he says with a grin that lifts Jack's spirits more than he'll admit. They share a quick breakfast at the small table, the hum of the refrigerator filling the quiet moments between hopeful words. Jack checks the clock, heart thumping with anticipation. This isn't just a job. It's a chance to finally give Luke the life he deserves. Outside, autumn has painted the town in amber and gold, fallen leaves crunching beneath Jack's boots as he heads to his old pickup. The truck coughs and rattles as it starts, a stubborn machine held together by his own hands, much like his life these past few years. As he drives down Main Street, he passes the memorial park where rows of engraved names whisper stories of service and sacrifice. It reminds him why he fought, why he's still fighting. Jack rehearses answers aloud, practicing confidence he doesn't quite feel. He's prepared for every possible question: leadership skills, mechanical expertise, team management. Yet beneath the rehearsed words lies a simple truth. He needs this job not just for the paycheck, but to prove that a veteran's worth doesn't fade once the uniform comes off. The logistics company isn't glamorous, but it offers stability, insurance, a future. Luke's lunchbox sits on the seat beside him, forgotten in the morning rush. Jack makes a mental note to drop it off after the interview, smiling at the thought of his boy rolling his eyes in embarrassment. The road stretches ahead, lined with telephone poles that seem to march toward the horizon like soldiers. He tightens his grip on the steering wheel and exhales slowly. Today is the beginning of a new chapter, one he's waited years to write. He passes familiar landmarks, the old diner with its Veterans Eat Free sign, the church with the towering white steeple, each a reminder of the small-town values that shaped him. Yet beneath the comfort of routine, an anxious energy simmers. Jack knows the stakes. Failure means another month of overdue bills and explaining to Luke why dreams don't always come true. But today, he chooses to believe they can. A playlist of country ballads hums softly through the radio, lyrics about sacrifice and second chances, weaving into the fabric of his thoughts. Jack taps the steering wheel in rhythm, his pulse syncing with the melody. He imagines Luke's face when he hears the news that Dad got the job, the wide-eyed pride, the hug that says everything words can't. That image fuels him more than any paycheck ever could. As he drives, flashes of his past surface, the desert winds of Iraq, the brothers he lost, the promises he made to keep living with purpose. Each memory is a scar, a lesson, a reason to keep moving forward. This interview isn't just about work. It's about redemption, about proving to himself that service can take many forms. Duty doesn't end with discharge papers. It just changes shape. The sky blushes with the first hints of sunrise as he turns onto Route 42, the long stretch of road leading toward his future. Jack rolls down the window, letting the crisp air sting his cheeks, grounding him in the moment. He whispers a quiet prayer, not for luck, but for strength, and presses gently on the gas. Whatever happens today, he'll face it with the same courage that's carried him this far. The town fades behind him in the rearview mirror, replaced by endless fields and open sky. The interview is still miles away, but in Jack's heart the journey began long ago. With every mile marker that passes, his resolve hardens. This isn't just about landing a job, it's about keeping a promise to himself and to the boy waiting at home. And Jack Carter intends to keep it. The morning sun climbs higher, washing Route 42 in a soft, golden light that glints off the chrome of Jack's weathered pickup. The road is quiet this early, the only company a distant tractor kicking up dust in a field, and the occasional songbird perched on a telephone line. Jack rehearses his opening line one more time, picturing the firm handshake, the confident smile, the steady voice that will convince the hiring manager he's the man for the job. But as he rounds a bend near mile marker 27, something catches his eye. A silver SUV parked awkwardly on the shoulder, hood propped open, steam curling into the cold air. Hazard lights pulse like a distress beacon in the middle of nowhere. Jack's foot hovers over the brake as a flicker of hesitation grips him. Time is short. Every second he spends here is a second he risks losing the opportunity that could change everything. The voice of practicality whispers in his ear, "Keep driving. Someone else will stop." But another voice, deeper, older, ingrained through years of service, speaks louder. "You don't leave people behind." Jack exhales, feeling the familiar weight of duty settle on his shoulders. His pulse quickens, not from fear, but from the unmistakable pull of who he is. With a steady hand, he signals and eases the truck onto the gravel shoulder behind the stranded vehicle. The wind cuts sharply across the open fields as he steps out, tugging at his jacket and carrying the scent of damp earth and exhaust. Up close, he sees a woman pacing near the SUV, phone pressed to her ear, frustration etched across her face. Her thin coat is no match for the cold, and her breath hangs in the air like smoke. She ends the call and looks up, relief flooding her features when she spots him approaching. "Morning, ma'am," Jack says, his voice calm and steady. "Looks like you've got some trouble." She nods, explaining that the tire blew out and the jack won't budge. He kneels beside the wheel, hands already working, muscle memory guiding each motion. The metal is cold against his fingertips, the bolts stubborn from rust and neglect. But Jack's patience is practiced, forged in situations far more desperate than this. Minutes tick by as passing cars blur into streaks of color, none slowing down to help. Jack barely notices. His world narrows to the hiss of escaping steam, the creak of the jack, the thud of the spare tire sliding into place. The woman, Sarah, she introduces herself, thanks him repeatedly, her gratitude growing with each turn of the wrench. Jack brushes it off with a small smile. Just doing what anyone should, he says, though they both know most people wouldn't have stopped. By the time the job is done, sweat clings to his brow despite the chill, and his watch confirms the truth he's been trying to ignore. He's running dangerously late. Sarah offers to call someone to repay him somehow, but Jack waves it away. "Just glad you're safe," he says, climbing back into his truck. As he pulls onto the road, the clock on the dashboard ticks louder than the engine, a relentless reminder of what this choice might cost. The miles that follow feel heavier, each one a question he can't answer. Did he just throw away his future for a stranger on the side of the road? He grips the steering wheel tighter, jaws set, refusing to let regret take root. Some choices aren't about outcomes. They're about identity. And Jack Carter has never been the kind of man to drive past someone in need. Clouds gather on the horizon as the town's industrial skyline comes into view, the company building rising in the distance like a promise he may no longer reach. He presses harder on the gas, but time doesn't yield. All he can do now is hope. Hope that doing the right thing still means something in a world that seems to have forgotten what that is. The cold wind slices across the roadside as Jack kneels beside the stranded SUV, his calloused hands steady despite the biting chill. Sarah Bennett stands nearby, arms wrapped around herself, shivering in a thin jacket, unsuited for the Ohio autumn. Her breath clouds in the air, each exhale revealing her unease. Jack's focus narrows to the stubborn bolts, his training guiding him through this simple yet urgent task. Every turn of the wrench is another second lost, but he pushes that thought aside. Sarah crouches down, her voice trembling as she tries to help, but it's clear she's out of her depth. "I'm sorry," she says softly, frustration laced with embarrassment. Jack glances up, meeting her eyes with calm assurance. "Don't be," he replies, offering a small smile. "Happens to everyone." She watches his movements closely, as if trying to memorize each step. In her gaze, Jack sees both relief and curiosity. Cars rush past, their tires hissing against the pavement, none slowing to lend a hand. Jack's mind drifts to the battlefield, moments when ignoring a call for help meant tragedy. That memory steels his resolve now. He secures the jack, braces the frame, and slides the spare into place with practiced ease. Sarah's gratitude grows with every passing moment. Her voice repeating thanks he waves off with quiet humility. For him, this is instinct, not heroism. The job stretches longer than he expects. Rusted bolts resist, the jack slips twice, and the cold numbs his fingers. Jack's pulse ticks with the minutes he's burning, yet his movements remain methodical, deliberate. "Almost there," he murmurs, more to himself than to her. Sarah stands guard, scanning the empty fields, as if aware of the weight of time pressing against them. Her phone buzzes unanswered in her pocket, the call for a tow truck already too late. Finally, with one last heave, the tire clicks into place. Jack lowers the SUV gently, testing the stability before stepping back. He wipes his hands on a rag pulled from his truck, the grease smearing like shadows across the fabric. Sarah exhales in visible relief, her shoulders sinking as tension drains from her body. "You don't know what this means to me," she says, her voice sincere. Jack shrugs lightly. "Glad to help." She studies him for a moment as though searching for something beneath his rugged exterior. "Most people would have driven by," she admits, her tone half admiration, half disbelief. Jack shakes his head. "Maybe." But I'm not most people. The words hang between them, heavier than he intends, echoing the code that's carried him through wars and hardship alike. Time, however, refuses to pause. Jack glances at his watch, the harsh truth slamming into him. He's already behind. The interview, his one shot at stability, is slipping away like sand through his fingers. Sarah notices the flicker of urgency in his expression. "You're late for something, aren't you?" she asks quietly. He offers only a tight smile, unwilling to confirm what she already suspects. She insists on giving him her number, pressing it into his grease-stained hand, but Jack waves it away. "Just pay it forward," he says, climbing into his truck with a final nod. The rumble of the engine drowns out her protest as he pulls back onto Route 42. Through the rearview mirror, he sees her still standing by the SUV, watching him drive away. The road stretches out once more, but the air inside the cab feels heavier now. Each passing mile brings him closer to the company building, yet farther from the certainty he needs. He drums his fingers on the steering wheel, the adrenaline fading into dread. Choices have consequences, and Jack can already feel this one closing in. Ahead, the skyline of the town rises slowly, promising opportunity just out of reach. Jack presses harder on the gas, as though speed could undo the minutes he sacrificed. The thought gnaws at him. Had he done the right thing, or had he doomed himself to another cycle of failure? His heart knows the answer, even as his mind protests. Doing the right thing was never about convenience. It was about character. The truck screeches into the company lot, gravel spitting beneath its tires as Jack pulls into the first open space. His chest heaves with urgency, boots striking hard against the pavement as he strides toward the glass doors. For a fleeting moment, hope sparks. Maybe he's just in time, maybe fortune will meet him halfway. But as he grips the handle, reality crashes down. The lobby is dark, the closed sign hanging like a verdict. Jack stands frozen, staring at the silent building, the weight of his choice pressing down on him. His reflection in the glass shows a man torn between pride and despair, a Marine who lived by a code, yet a father who fears he's failed. The ticking of his watch sounds like a drumbeat of condemnation. Every second reminds him of what's lost: the interview, the opportunity, the promise of stability for Luke. His legs feel heavy as he turns back toward the truck, the air thick with the sting of defeat. The once crisp autumn morning now feels colder, the sun dimmed by the cloud of regret hovering over him. Neighbors' voices echo in his head, warnings about wasted time, about the foolishness of putting principle before profit. He wants to silence them, but deep down he fears they're right. Driving home, silence replaces the hopeful music from earlier, the radio switched off to spare him the irony of cheerful lyrics. Each familiar landmark mocks him now: the diner, the church, the memorial park. Where once they inspired strength, now they whisper questions he cannot answer. Was his sacrifice noble, or was it reckless? Did his code truly matter in a world that rewards convenience over conscience? By the time Jack pulls into his driveway, exhaustion has settled deep in his bones. Luke bursts out the front door, his face alight with anticipation, but the hope dims the instant he reads his father's expression. "You didn't get it, did you?" the boy asks, his voice small but steady. Jack swallows hard, kneeling to meet his son's eyes. "Not today, buddy." "I'm sorry." Luke tries to smile, masking the disappointment that stings sharper than any words. Together they step inside, where the kitchen table is already buried under bills, utilities, repairs, overdue notices. Jack's chest tightens as he drops his keys onto the counter, the clatter echoing like judgment. Each envelope is a reminder of how thin the margin has become, how fragile their life is. Friends stop by that evening, neighbors too, all with the same refrain: "You should have kept driving." Their words cut, not because they're cruel, but because they reflect a harsh reality. Jack listens in silence, nodding politely, though each comment chips away at the foundation of his certainty. Alone later, he stares at the medals on his dresser, wondering if those values still belong in this world. Yet when Luke sits beside him, placing a small hand on his arm, Jack finds the strength to push back against despair. "You did the right thing, Dad," the boy says firmly, his conviction steady despite his years. Jack looks into his son's eyes, seeing the reflection of the man he wants to remain. For all the doubt, all the hardship, he cannot abandon the code that defines him. The night grows quiet, the town outside their window settling into stillness. Jack lies awake, replaying the day over and over, each detail a reminder of the cost of character. Yet, even as regret gnaws at him, a sliver of peace holds firm, the knowledge that he chose integrity over compromise. It doesn't erase the loss, but it anchors him to something greater than circumstance. As dawn approaches, Jack rises, shoulders squared despite the weight he carries. Life hasn't given him the second chance he hoped for, but tomorrow is another day, another battle to fight. He breathes deep, steadying himself for what's ahead. The road may be harder now, but his path is clear. Doing the right thing is never easy, and that's exactly why it matters. The morning after the failed interview, Jack wakes before the alarm, staring at the ceiling as faint light seeps through faded curtains. The house is silent except for the ticking of a clock, each second an unwelcome reminder of time lost. He drags himself out of bed and brews a pot of coffee, though the bitter aroma offers little comfort. The mirror above the sink reflects a face lined with exhaustion, a man wrestling with more than just disappointment. He tells himself to shake it off, but the weight lingers. Luke joins him at the kitchen table, cereal spoon clinking against the bowl, trying to fill the silence with small talk. "We'll find another job, Dad," he says with forced optimism, though his eyes betray his worry. Jack musters a smile, the kind fathers wear when they're trying not to scare their children. "Yeah," he replies softly, "we will." But deep down he isn't sure he believes it. The future feels like a long stretch of road with no signs ahead. The mailbox brings more bad news. Overdue bills, collection notices, a final warning from the bank. Jack stacks them neatly on the counter, as if order can somehow make them less overwhelming. His stomach knots tighter with every envelope. There was a time when he faced enemy fire without flinching, but this quiet siege, bills, expectations, disappointment, cuts deeper than any battlefield wound. It isn't the kind of fight he was trained for. In town, the whispers have already started. At the gas station, two men nod politely but share a knowing glance. At the diner, a friend shakes his head and mutters, "Should have kept driving." The words sting more than Jack expects, each one a jab at the principles he's built his life on. He tells himself their opinions don't matter, but late at night, their judgment echoes louder than his own. He picks up extra shifts at the small garage, patching tires and changing oil, just to keep the lights on. The work is honest but unfulfilling, far from the career he dreamed of. Grease stains his hands, and sweat clings to his brow, yet the paychecks barely stretch far enough. Every turn of a wrench feels like a step backward, a reminder of how far he's fallen from the life he imagined for himself and his son. Luke, wise beyond his years, senses the burden, even when Jack tries to hide it. "You're still my hero," he says one evening as they share a simple dinner of leftovers. The boy's words warm Jack's heart, but also pierce it. Heroes aren't supposed to fail. They're supposed to lead, to provide, to win battles, even the quiet ones fought in kitchens and living rooms. Jack wonders if he's failing at the one mission that matters most. Nights stretch long and sleepless, filled with questions that have no answers. Was stopping for Sarah worth the cost? Would Luke be better off if he'd chosen differently? He replays the scene over and over, the smoke, the tire, the gratitude in her eyes, and each time the answer is the same. He couldn't have driven past her. It's not who he is. That truth offers little comfort, but it's something to hold on to. One evening, as he's closing up the garage, Tom Harlan, his former sergeant and oldest friend, drops by. "Heard what happened," Tom says, leaning against the workbench. "You did the right thing, Jack. Most wouldn't." The words land with the weight of a medal, but Jack shakes his head. "Doesn't feel like it." Tom claps a hand on his shoulder. "Right really does." The old Marine wisdom cuts through the doubt like sunlight through fog. Despite the hardship, Jack finds small moments of peace, a shared laugh with Luke, a sunset over the cornfields, the steady hum of the truck's engine on the drive home. Life hasn't ended, it's simply shifted. Yet the ache of missed opportunity remains, a constant hum beneath the surface of his days. The world hasn't rewarded his integrity, and part of him wonders if it ever will. Still, as he locks the garage one night and looks out over the darkening town, Jack feels a stubborn spark refuse to die. He's lost battles before, in war, in life, but he's never stopped fighting. Quiet defeat isn't the same as surrender. Somewhere beyond the horizon, he tells himself a second chance is waiting. All he has to do is keep moving forward. It's a chilly Thursday afternoon when the bell above the garage door jingles, pulling Jack from beneath the hood of an old Chevy. He wipes his hands on a rag and looks up, and there she is. Sarah Bennett, the woman from Route 42, stepping hesitantly into the dimly lit shop. Her presence here, days after the encounter, stirs a mix of surprise and curiosity. "Didn't expect to see you again," Jack says, his voice measured. Sarah smiles, a little nervously, clutching a cardboard tray with 2 steaming cups of coffee. "I owed you more than a thank you," she replies, offering one to him. Jack hesitates before accepting, the warmth seeping into his grease-stained hands. It's a simple gesture, but it carries weight. People rarely go out of their way for a mechanic, or for a man who's trying to rebuild his life from the ground up. They sit on a pair of overturned crates near the open bay door, autumn sunlight spilling across the concrete floor. Sarah asks about his service, about the years overseas, and about Luke. Her questions are careful, respectful, the kind that come from genuine curiosity, rather than polite, small talk. Jack answers cautiously at first, but as the minutes pass, his guard lowers. He tells her about the challenges of civilian life, about the jobs that never last, about the future he still hopes to build. "You didn't have to stop that day," Sarah says quietly, eyes fixed on the horizon. "Most people wouldn't have," Jack shrugs, staring into his coffee. "Didn't feel like a choice," he admits. "I've spent my life running toward people in trouble. Hard habit to break." She studies him, the corners of her lips curling into a thoughtful smile, as if filing away a piece of information for later. Conversation drifts from service to family to dreams long deferred. Jack listens as Sarah talks about her own life, a demanding job, constant travel, little time for herself. There's a weariness beneath her polished exterior, the kind that only those who've carried heavy burdens can recognize. In that shared vulnerability, an unexpected connection begins to form. It's subtle but real, a reminder that even strangers can understand each other's battles. Before leaving, Sarah reaches into her bag and hands him a card. "If you ever need anything at all, call me," she says, her tone sincere. Jack turns the card over in his hand. It bears no title, no company name, just a phone number and her name printed in simple black ink. "I appreciate it," he says, slipping it into his pocket, though he doubts he'll ever use it. After she leaves, the garage feels strangely quiet, as if her presence had momentarily lifted a weight he didn't know he was carrying. Jack leans against a workbench, staring at the empty doorway. Something about the encounter lingers, a sense that the story isn't over, that the roadside meeting was just the first chapter in something larger. He shakes the thought away, returning to the Chevy. Work is work, and bills don't pay themselves. That evening, over dinner, Luke asks about the woman who stopped by. "Just someone I helped," Jack replies casually, but his mind keeps circling back to her words, her questions, her offer of help. There was something in her tone, something more than gratitude. Luke grins mischievously. "Maybe she's got a job for you." Jack laughs it off, though the thought lingers. Days pass, and life resumes its slow, steady rhythm. Yet every time the phone rings, Jack feels a flicker of anticipation he can't explain. He tells himself it's foolish. People like Sarah don't change the lives of people like him. Still, when he checks his pocket before bed and feels the weight of her card, hope stirs quietly beneath the layers of doubt. And somewhere beneath the hum of everyday struggle, destiny shifts course. Jack doesn't know it yet, but the decision to stop on Route 42 has already set forces in motion. The woman he helped isn't just a stranger with a flat tire. She's a key to a future he never imagined, and soon their paths will cross again. 3 weeks pass before the phone rings with an unfamiliar number, its tone breaking the monotony of another long day at the garage. Jack hesitates before answering, grease still clinging to his hands, the smell of motor oil heavy in the air. "Mr. Carter?" A woman's voice asks. "We'd like to schedule you for an interview with a company called ValorWorks." For a moment, Jack is sure it's a mistake. He hasn't applied anywhere in weeks. Yet the woman insists someone recommended him. The news stirs something he hasn't felt in a long time. Hope. He writes down the details with a trembling hand, trying not to read too much into it. A new interview means another shot, another chance to pull himself and Luke out of the slow spiral they've been living. That night, over dinner, he tells his son. Luke's eyes light up instantly. "This is it, Dad. This is the one." Jack laughs, but the sound carries a nervous edge. Maybe the boy is right. Maybe this is the one. In the days that follow, he prepares with military precision. He studies the company online, a growing manufacturing firm based in the next town over. Their mission statement speaks of purpose, integrity, and service, words that resonate deep in his bones. He rewrites his resume, irons his best shirt, and practices interview questions until the mirror becomes his sparring partner. Failure is not an option this time. On the morning of the interview, Jack wakes before sunrise, the sky painted in soft pinks and blues. He stands at the dresser, straightening his tie with the same care he gave his uniform years ago. The medals on the shelf above seem to watch him silently, reminders of a man who once thrived under pressure. "Let's finish this mission," he whispers to himself, a small ritual of focus and resolve. The drive to Valor Works is quiet, the hum of the engine matching the rhythm of his heartbeat. As the miles roll by, he rehearses once more, but this time his words carry confidence rather than desperation. Luke's lunchbox rides shotgun again, a talisman of purpose and responsibility. Each passing mile feels different, as if this road is leading not just to a job, but to redemption. When he arrives, the building surprises him. It's not a corporate tower, but a refurbished brick warehouse, the American flag flying proudly above the entrance. The parking lot is lined with trucks, many bearing veteran bumper stickers. Jack steps out of his pickup and takes a deep breath, the crisp air filling his lungs with possibility. Something about this place feels different, familiar, even. Inside, the receptionist greets him warmly, offering coffee and a handshake that feels more like a welcome than an interview. The waiting room walls are lined with photographs, men and women in uniform, group shots from community projects, plaques honoring service. Jack studies them closely, recognizing the look in their eyes. They're not just employees. They're brothers and sisters in arms, still serving in their own way. Minutes stretch into what feels like hours before his name is called. Jack wipes his palms against his slacks and follows a hallway deeper into the building. His pulse quickens with each step, but it's not fear, it's purpose. For the first time in a long time, he feels like he's walking toward something rather than running from it. The conference room is modest, no suits, no sterile boardroom energy. Just a table, a few chairs, and a faint scent of machine oil drifting from the factory floor. Jack sits, straightens his back, and braces for the usual questions. But as the door opens and footsteps approach, nothing could prepare him for who walks in next. It's Sarah. For a moment, Jack thinks he's imagining things. Sarah Bennett, the woman he helped on Route 42, steps into the room dressed in a sharp navy suit, confidence radiating from every movement. Gone is the stranded motorist in need of help. In her place stands someone powerful, someone in command. "Mr. Carter," she says with a knowing smile, "it's good to see you again." Jack blinks, unsure how to respond. "I didn't expect this," he admits, his voice betraying his surprise. Sarah gestures for him to sit, then takes a seat across from him. "I didn't expect to see you again either," she says. "But that day on the highway told me more about you than any resume ever could." The words hang in the air, heavy with meaning. Jack realizes now this interview isn't a coincidence. It's because of her. She explains that Valor Works is more than just a manufacturing company. It's a mission, founded by veterans, staffed by veterans, and dedicated to giving those who served a chance to keep serving in new ways. We don't just build products, she says. We build purpose. We help people who gave everything to their country find meaning again. Her voice carries the kind of conviction that only comes from experience. Jack listens, something stirring deep inside him. Every word feels like it's aimed straight at the part of him that's been searching for direction since he left the Marines. I've been where you are, Sarah continues. I know what it's like to feel invisible, to wonder if what you did still matters. That's why ValorWorks exists, to remind people like us that service doesn't end with a uniform. The interview itself is unlike any he's ever had. Instead of corporate jargon, they talk about leadership, about integrity, about the kind of people Jack has led and the kind of man he's tried to be. Sarah asks him about difficult decisions he's made, and he tells her about the choice on Route 42. She smiles knowingly. That's exactly the kind of decision we want our leaders to make here, she says. Character over convenience. Jack's confidence builds with each question, his voice growing stronger, steadier. For once, he doesn't feel like he's selling himself. He's simply telling his story, and for the first time in years, it feels like enough. Sarah listens intently, occasionally jotting notes, but mostly just watching him with that same thoughtful expression she wore at the garage. As the interview wraps up, Sarah leans forward, her tone softening. I believe you're the kind of man ValorWorks needs, she says. But I won't lie to you, this won't be easy. The company is growing fast, and the challenges are real. If you join us, you won't just be taking a job. You'll be taking on a mission. Jack nods, the weight of her words settling on his shoulders. A mission. That's something he understands. They shake hands, firm, deliberate, respectful. We'll be in touch soon, Sarah says, though her eyes suggest the decision is already made. As Jack walks back to his truck, his heart pounds with something unfamiliar yet deeply welcome, possibility. The path ahead is uncertain, but for the first time since leaving the Marines, he feels like he's heading toward a future worth fighting for. Driving home, the afternoon sun breaks through the clouds, painting the sky in streaks of gold. Jack rolls down the window, the wind whipping through the cab as a smile tugs at the corner of his mouth. Life has a funny way of circling back, of turning detours into destinations. Maybe stopping for that SUV hadn't cost him his future after all. Maybe it was the very thing that set it in motion. And somewhere deep inside, a quiet truth takes root. Sometimes the smallest acts of service lead to the biggest battles. And Jack Carter has never been one to back down from a fight. The call comes 3 days later, and Jack nearly drops the phone when he hears Sarah's voice on the other end. We'd like to offer you the management position, she says, her tone warm but serious. It's not just a job, it's a leadership role. We're counting on you. For a moment, Jack is speechless. After months of rejection and doubt, the words feel almost unreal. But as the initial excitement fades, reality rushes in. This isn't a simple yes or no. It's a decision that will change everything. The offer comes with challenges, long hours, heavy responsibilities, and the possibility of failure that gnaws at the edges of Jack's confidence. ValorWorks isn't just hiring a manager. They're asking him to help steer a struggling company back on course. We need leaders who can think on their feet, Sarah tells him. People who don't quit when things get tough. Jack hangs up the phone and stares out the window, watching the wind bend the cornfields. Leadership he knows, failure he fears. That night he lays the offer on the table for Luke, who listens with wide, curious eyes. "It's a big job," Jack explains, trying to sound more confident than he feels. "It might mean less time at home. It might even mean moving." Luke thinks for a moment before replying with the clarity only a child can offer. "Marines don't run from hard fights," he says simply. The words hit Jack like a bolt of lightning, not as a challenge but as a reminder of who he is. Still, doubt lingers. Friends warn him against taking the risk, reminding him of how many times life has knocked him down. "You've got stability now," one says. "Why gamble it on something that could blow up?" Even Tom, his old sergeant, cautions him. "This won't be easy, Jack. They're not asking you to fix a machine. They're asking you to fix a mission." But deep down, Jack knows that playing it safe isn't living. It's surviving. And he's done surviving. The decision weighs on him in quiet moments. Shaving in the morning, folding laundry, walking past the memorial park. Everywhere he turns, he's reminded of the men he served with, the battles they fought, the sacrifices they made. They didn't fight for comfort. They fought for purpose. And purpose is exactly what this job offers. It's not about salary or benefits. It's about building something that matters. Late one evening, Jack takes a drive down Route 42, retracing the path that changed his life. He pulls over at the same stretch of road where he found Sarah weeks earlier, stepping out into the cool night air. The empty highway is silent now, but it hums with memory. Was this all meant to happen? He wonders aloud. The thought makes him smile. Maybe it doesn't matter. What matters is what he chooses next. The next morning he calls Sarah. "I'm in," he says, his voice steady, resolute. "But I'm not coming just to do a job. I'm coming to make a difference." She doesn't respond immediately, but when she does, her words are measured and sincere. "That's exactly what I was hoping you'd say. The die is cast. There's no turning back now." Preparation begins immediately. Paperwork, orientation, meetings with department heads. Jack immerses himself in the details, absorbing everything he can about ValorWorks' mission, operations, and challenges. It's overwhelming at times, but the weight feels good, like a rucksack strapped to his back, heavy but purposeful. He's stepping into the unknown, but it's a battlefield he's ready to face. Luke beams with pride as Jack tells him the news. "Told you," the boy says with a grin. "Marines don't run." Jack ruffles his hair, laughing at the simplicity and wisdom of the words. This isn't just his fight anymore, it's theirs. Together they're stepping into a new chapter, one where hope feels less like a dream and more like a plan. And as he falls asleep that night, Jack's heart is steadier than it's been in years. The mission ahead is daunting, but it's his mission now, one he's ready to lead. The first day at ValorWorks feels like stepping into a new world, familiar yet foreign, like a battlefield dressed in factory walls. The hum of machinery echoes through the massive facility, the air thick with the scent of oil, steel, and purpose. Workers in worn uniforms move with practiced rhythm, their conversations sprinkled with the shorthand of shared service. Jack feels the weight of their eyes as he walks the floor. They don't know him yet. They're waiting to see if he's worth following. Sarah introduces him to the team with a few simple words. "This is Jack Carter. He's one of us." The statement draws nods, but also skepticism. Many of the men and women here have seen leaders come and go, most leaving before the job was truly done. Jack knows respect isn't given. It's earned. one action at a time. So he trades the office for the floor, rolling up his sleeves and diving into the work alongside them. The company's problems become clear almost immediately. Production is behind schedule, shipments are delayed, and morale is low. The team is divided, some clinging to old ways, others too burned out to care. Jack recognizes the signs. This isn't a broken machine. It's a fractured unit. And just like in the Corps, he knows a fractured unit needs leadership more than orders. He starts small, listening, observing, asking questions. He learns names, stories, and frustrations. He walks the line with the technicians, offering solutions and asking for theirs. Slowly, walls begin to crumble. A few workers start greeting him by name. Jokes are shared. A spark of camaraderie flickers where there was once only resentment. It's not victory, but it's a foothold. Still, the challenges are relentless. A crucial shipment is delayed, throwing the entire production schedule into chaos. A supplier backs out at the last minute. And looming above it all is a massive government contract, with a deadline that's drawing closer by the day. Failure isn't just bad business. It could shut the doors of ValorWorks for good. The pressure is suffocating, but Jack thrives under pressure. It's where he's always done his best work. Sarah gives him more responsibility than he expected. Strategic planning, operational oversight, leadership meetings. It's more than he's ever handled before, but he rises to meet it, leaning on the discipline and adaptability that carried him through war zones. Every obstacle becomes a mission objective. Every setback is an opportunity to adapt and overcome. Some nights he's the last to leave, walking the quiet factory floor long after the machines have stopped. He runs his hand over the cool steel of a finished product, thinking of the veterans whose hands built it and the families whose futures depend on it. This isn't just about manufacturing. It's about dignity, purpose, and proving that character still has a place in the modern world. The turning point comes when a skeptical foreman named Miles challenges one of Jack's proposed changes. "We've been doing it this way for years," Miles grumbles. Jack doesn't argue. Instead, he invites Miles to try it his way for 1 week. When production numbers rise by 15%, Miles becomes one of his strongest allies. Trust, once earned, spreads quickly. As weeks pass, the factory begins to change. The floor hums with renewed energy, the workers more engaged and optimistic. Deadlines that once seemed impossible are now within reach. Jack's leadership isn't flashy. It's steady, relentless, grounded in the belief that people, not machines, are the heart of any mission. But even as momentum builds, a storm brews on the horizon. Rumors ripple through the team. A critical piece of equipment is failing, threatening to derail everything. The government contract, the company's future, the jobs of dozens of veterans, all of it hangs in the balance. Jack senses the coming battle and steels himself for the fight ahead. He's walked into fires before. He'll walk into this one, too. The warning comes on a cold Monday morning, carried by the frantic voice of a technician sprinting across the factory floor. "Jack, line 3's down." The words hit like a gunshot. Within minutes, Jack is standing before the massive piece of machinery at the heart of their production. Silent, lifeless, a hulking steel giant that refuses to move. Without it, the company can't meet the government contract. Without the contract, ValorWorks might not survive. Sarah rushes in, her face pale beneath the fluorescent lights. "We have 5 days," she says, her voice tight with urgency. "If we miss this delivery, the deal's off. And if the deal's off, we don't have a company." Jack nods once, absorbing the gravity of it. This isn't just a setback, it's a battlefield. And like every battlefield he's faced, retreat isn't an option. "We'll fix it," he says, "no matter what it takes." The machine is a labyrinth of gears, belts, and circuits, decades old and stubborn as a mule. Jack gathers a small team of mechanics and engineers, their faces etched with concern. Hours blur into one another as they diagnose the issue, tracing faults, testing systems, replacing parts. Sweat beads on foreheads, tools clatter against the floor, and the smell of burning oil hangs heavy in the air. But the machine remains silent, indifferent to their desperation. As the day drags into night, exhaustion creeps in, but Jack refuses to leave. He studies schematics under the glow of a flickering work light, eyes burning from lack of sleep. Every problem has a solution. That's what the course taught him, but sometimes finding it means pushing past the point of exhaustion. His hands move with practiced precision, guided by instinct as much as training. Around him, the team mirrors his resolve, unwilling to give up as long as he doesn't. Meanwhile, pressure mounts from every direction. Suppliers call demanding updates. The client sends warnings about breach of contract. Even some workers begin to doubt the mission, whispering that maybe this is the fight they can't win. Jack hears the doubt but refuses to let it take root. "We've faced worse," he tells them during a late-night huddle. "And we didn't quit then. We're not quitting now." The words are more than motivation. They're a rallying cry. Luke calls one evening, his small voice breaking through the static of fatigue. "You're still my hero, Dad," he says. "Even if you miss the game." The words hit Jack harder than any obstacle. He promised to attend Luke's school baseball final, but the mission has consumed every waking moment. Guilt claws at him, but he pushes it aside. Sacrifice is part of service, and this service could change hundreds of lives. Day 2 bleeds into day 3, and still the machine refuses to come back to life. The factory floor feels colder now, heavier, the weight of potential failure pressing down on every worker. Jack leans against the metal casing, eyes closed, whispering a quiet prayer for clarity. Somewhere in the hum of silence a memory surfaces, an old field repair in Afghanistan, a trick they used to bypass a damaged system. The idea sparks, small but powerful. He rallies the team, outlining a risky but innovative plan, a complete reroute of the machine's primary control system. It's dangerous, untested, and could backfire. But if it works, it might bring the beast back to life. Tools fly into motion once again, each technician moving with renewed purpose. They're no longer just fixing a machine. They're fighting for their livelihoods, their dignity, their mission. Hours later, with sweat-soaked shirts and trembling hands, they flip the switch. For a breathless second, nothing happens. Then, a hum, a shudder, a roar. The machine lurches back to life, gears grinding and belts spinning. Cheers erupt across the floor, echoing against the steel beams like a victory cry on the battlefield. But Jack knows the war isn't over. They've won a battle, not the campaign. They still have 2 days to meet the deadline. 2 days to produce and ship every unit. 2 days to prove that Valor Works deserves its place. As the machine runs through the night, Jack stands back and watches, pride swelling in his chest. This isn't just about saving a company. It's about proving that integrity, grit, and teamwork can overcome any obstacle. The days that follow blur into one relentless marathon of motion. The factory hums 24 hours a day, the clang of metal and hiss of hydraulics merging into a symphony of purpose. Jack sleeps in 2-hour snatches on a cot in his office, his dreams haunted by deadlines and production schedules. Every minute counts, and every decision feels like it could make or break the mission. This is no longer just a job, it's a battle for survival. He pushes himself harder than he ever has before, coordinating shifts, troubleshooting issues, and jumping in wherever he's needed. His hands are raw from handling tools, his eyes bloodshot from sleepless nights. "Go home, Jack," Sarah tells him at one point, concern etched into her face. He shakes his head. "Not until we're done. There's no room for rest, not when so much is at stake." The team feeds off his determination. Men and women who once doubted the mission now work with renewed vigor, inspired by Jack's relentless pace. They skip breaks, volunteer for extra shifts, and share stories of deployments long past as they push through the fatigue. It feels less like a factory and more like a unit, brothers and sisters bound by a shared mission. Valor Works isn't just a company anymore. It's a cause. But the sacrifices mount. Jack misses Luke's school assembly, then a parent-teacher conference. He barely hears his son's voice on nightly calls, too exhausted to stay awake. The guilt gnaws at him, deeper than any physical ache. "I'll make it up to you," he promises, though he isn't sure how. Luke, wise as ever, replies simply, "I know you're doing something important." The words fuel him to push harder. On the final night before the deadline, disaster nearly strikes again. A power surge threatens to halt production just as the last batch is being assembled. Jack and the team scramble, rerouting systems, restarting processes, refusing to let the mission slip away. Sweat drips from their brows, adrenaline surges through their veins. When the conveyor belts roar back to life, a collective cheer erupts, louder and more triumphant than before. The last shipment is sealed and loaded onto trucks just hours before the deadline. Workers stand shoulder to shoulder, watching as the convoy pulls out under the rising dawn. Some are too tired to cheer, others too overwhelmed to speak. Jack simply stands in silence, watching the taillights fade into the distance. A wave of exhaustion washes over him, followed by something deeper: pride. Pure, unfiltered pride. Sarah finds him later, slumped against a wall, grease on his hands and dark circles under his eyes. "You did it," she says softly. "We did it," he corrects her, a tired but genuine smile tugging at his lips. "All of us, the victory isn't his alone. It belongs to every person who refused to quit, who believed that character and determination still matter in a world obsessed with shortcuts." The company not only meets the contract, but exceeds expectations, earning praise from the client and cementing Valor Works' reputation as a reliable partner. For many of the workers, it's more than just a job saved. It's dignity restored, a reminder that their skills and service still have meaning. For Jack, it's validation. Proof that he made the right choice on that lonely highway weeks ago. That night he returns home to find Luke waiting on the porch, baseball glove in hand. "I saved a spot on the team for you," the boy says with a grin. Jack kneels and pulls him into a hug, tears stinging his eyes. "I'm sorry I missed so much," he whispers. Luke shakes his head. "You were doing something bigger." The words are simple but profound, and in that moment every sacrifice feels worth it. As the two sit beneath the fading sunset, Jack reflects on the journey that brought them here. The choices, the struggles, the doubts, all of it led to this moment of hard-earned triumph. And deep down, he knows this is only the beginning. Duty didn't end when he hung up his uniform. It lives on in every challenge, every mission, every life he touches. And he's just getting started. The morning after the final shipment leaves the plant, the air at Valor Works feels different, lighter, charged with a quiet sense of victory. Workers arrive early, smiling and slapping each other on the back, the fatigue of the past week replaced by pride. For the first time since he took the job, Jack walks the factory floor without the weight of uncertainty pressing on his shoulders. The mission is complete. The company is safe. And in the eyes of those who once doubted him, he now sees something new: respect. Sarah calls him into her office later that day, the sunlight streaming through the large windows, casting a golden glow across the room. "We couldn't have done this without you," she says simply. "The team followed you because they believed in you. And they believed in you because you showed them what leadership really means." Jack shifts uncomfortably in his chair, unused to praise. "We did it together," he replies. "That's how it's supposed to be." But Sarah isn't finished. She slides a folder across the desk, a proposal stamped with the company's seal. "We want you to lead our new national initiative," she explains. "We're expanding Valor Works across the country, new facilities, new teams. Hundreds of veterans will have jobs and purpose again, and we want you to be the one to build it." Jack stares at the papers, the words blurring as the weight of the offer sinks in. This isn't just a promotion, it's a calling. Memories flood his mind. The days he spent patching tires just to keep the lights on, the humiliation of missed opportunities, the doubt that once whispered he wasn't good enough. All of it led here, to this moment. "Are you sure I'm the right man for this?" he asks quietly. Sarah smiles, leaning forward. "You were the right man from the moment you pulled over on Route 42. The words strike deeper than any medal or commendation he's ever received. Jack accepts the role, the decision made with the same resolve that once guided him on the battlefield. The news spreads quickly through the company, met with cheers and handshakes. Even the most skeptical workers come forward to thank him, their gratitude sincere. This isn't just redemption, it's transformation. The man who once questioned his place in the world is now shaping the future for those who served. At home, Luke listens intently as Jack explains the new responsibilities that lie ahead. "So, you're going to help other veterans get jobs?" the boy asks. Jack nods. "That's the plan. No one who served this country should feel forgotten." Luke grins, pride shining in his eyes. "Then you're not just my hero anymore, Dad. You're theirs too." The words make Jack's chest tighten, a surge of emotion rising that he doesn't try to hide. Weeks turn into months and the mission grows. Jack travels across the country, meeting with veterans groups, recruiting skilled workers, and launching programs that change lives. At every ribbon-cutting ceremony, he sees faces filled with hope, men and women who had once felt invisible, now given a chance to serve again in a different way. It's more than a job. It's a movement. One afternoon, Jack stands in the middle of a bustling new facility in Texas, watching veterans train on advanced machinery. A man approaches him, a Marine who lost both legs in combat, and shakes his hand firmly. "I thought I was done," the man says, "but this job gave me my purpose back." Jack swallows hard, his voice rough with emotion. That's what this is all about. Back in Ohio, Valor Works is thriving. New contracts pour in, and the company's reputation spreads far beyond the manufacturing sector. News outlets call Jack's story a testament to the American spirit, a reminder that integrity and service still have power in a cynical world. But for Jack, the headlines don't matter. What matters are the people whose lives have changed, and the son who never stopped believing in him. And every time he drives past that stretch of Route 42, Jack slows down and smiles. It's just another piece of highway to most people. But for him, it's the place where everything began, where a single choice set his life back on course and turned a simple act of kindness into a legacy of service. Months later, Jack finds himself standing before a congressional committee in Washington, D.C., a suit replacing the uniform he once wore. The room is grand and imposing, filled with lawmakers, journalists, and advocates, all waiting to hear how Valor Works transformed the landscape for veterans nationwide. Jack clears his throat, gripping the edges of the podium. "This isn't my story," he begins. "It's the story of thousands of men and women who still have more to give." He speaks with passion and conviction, describing the struggles veterans face when they return home, the battles with unemployment, identity, and purpose. He shares stories of those who found new beginnings through Valor Works, the Navy machinist now leading a production line, the Army medic running workplace safety programs, the Marine amputee mentoring new hires. Each story is a testament to resilience and to the belief that service doesn't end when the uniform comes off. Lawmakers listen intently, some nodding in agreement, others scribbling notes. Cameras flash, capturing the image of a man who embodies the very values he's speaking about. Jack calls for expanded support for veteran employment initiatives, arguing that the skills forged in service are the foundation of a stronger workforce. "Give them a mission," he says firmly, "and they'll move mountains." The applause that follows is genuine, not out of politeness but out of respect. When the hearing ends, reporters crowd around him, asking about his journey. Jack answers humbly, always shifting the spotlight back to the veterans who make Valor Works what it is. "I'm just one man who made one choice," he says. "The real heroes are the people who keep choosing to serve every single day." His words make the evening news, sparking conversations across the nation about how America treats its veterans. Back home, Luke watches the coverage on television, pride radiating from his face. "That's my dad," he tells his classmates the next day. He helps heroes find purpose again. The word spread through the school like wildfire, and soon Jack is invited to speak at assemblies and community events. Each time he delivers the same message. Integrity, service, and sacrifice are the pillars of a meaningful life. Valor Works' influence extends beyond employment. Other companies begin to follow its model, creating programs that prioritize hiring and supporting veterans. Legislation is introduced to offer tax incentives to businesses that do the same. The ripple effect grows, reaching corners of the country Jack never imagined touching. And through it all, he remains humble, focused on the mission rather than the accolades. One autumn afternoon, he returns to the memorial park in his hometown, standing silently before the engraved names of friends he once fought beside. He traces the letters with his fingertips, a quiet promise forming in his heart. Their sacrifices will never be forgotten, not as long as he has the strength to keep building, keep serving, keep fighting for those who came home. Later that evening, Luke joins him on the porch, the two watching the sunset paint the Ohio sky in deep orange and gold. "Do you ever miss it?" Luke asks. Jack smiles softly. "Every day," he admits. "But this, what we're doing now, it's another kind of service, and I wouldn't trade it for anything." The boy nods, leaning against his father's shoulder, understanding more than words can express. Letters pour in from across the country, from veterans thanking him for second chances, from families grateful for new beginnings, from young men and women inspired to serve in their own ways. Jack reads each one carefully, humbled by the impact of a journey that began with a single selfless choice. It's bigger than him now, far bigger, and that's exactly how he wants it. As he prepares for another trip to Washington, Jack pauses by the mirror, adjusting his tie. The man staring back isn't just a veteran, or a father, or a leader. He's a living testament to the power of duty, the strength of character, and the enduring belief that one person can change the world, not through grand gestures, but through unwavering principles. The November wind sweeps gently through the town square, carrying with it the crisp scent of autumn leaves and the distant sound of a marching band tuning their instruments. Red, white, and blue bunting drapes every lamp-post, and rows of folding chairs line the cobblestone plaza. It's Veterans Day, a day of remembrance, of gratitude, of pride. Jack Carter stands near the podium, straightening the lapel of his suit jacket as the American flag flutters high above. Today isn't about him, yet in many ways everything has led to this moment. The crowd is larger than ever before. Veterans in faded uniforms, children waving flags, families clutching framed photos of loved ones who served. Jack scans the faces, seeing stories in each one. The soldier who found a new mission at Valor Works, the widow who now leads a community outreach team, the young recruit inspired by their example. Among them stands Sarah, her warm smile catching his eye. She gives a small nod, a silent acknowledgment of the road they've walked together. When Jack steps up to the microphone, the crowd falls silent. "We gather here today," he begins, his voice steady but full of emotion, "not to glorify war but to honor service, the quiet, unwavering commitment to something greater than ourselves." He speaks of sacrifice, of resilience, of the enduring strength of the American spirit. He tells them that service isn't defined by uniforms or battlefields, it's defined by choices, by moments, by the courage to do what's right even when no one is watching. He glances toward the back row and spots Luke, taller now, standing proudly with his hand over his heart. The sight tightens Jack's throat. "I used to think my best days were behind me," he continues, "but I was wrong. My best days are the ones I spend helping others find their purpose, just as this nation helped me find mine." Applause swells, warm and genuine, rolling through the square like a wave of shared belief. The ceremony ends with the playing of taps, the mournful notes drifting into the cool air, and Jack bows his head in quiet reflection. Around him, veterans salute, children cheer, and families embrace. It's a celebration, yes, but also a reminder that freedom is built on the shoulders of those willing to serve, and that service continues long after the battles are over. Jack feels a deep, uncheckable pride swell within him. This is what it was all for. After the crowd disperses, Sarah joins him near the memorial statue at the center of the square. Quite a journey, huh? She says softly. Jack chuckles, hands in his pockets. All because of a flat tire, he replies. They share a laugh, the kind forged not just by shared struggle, but by shared purpose. Neither of them could have imagined on that cold morning on Route 42 how far that one act of kindness would reach. Luke runs up and wraps his arms around his father's waist. "I'm proud of you, Dad," he says, his voice filled with sincerity beyond his years. Jack hugs him tightly. The weight of everything, the struggles, the sacrifices, the victories melting into that single moment. "I'm proud of us," he replies. "We built something together, something that matters." And in Luke's bright eyes, Jack sees the future, one built not on bitterness or division, but on hope, unity, and resolve. As the afternoon sun dips toward the horizon, painting the sky in bands of orange and crimson, Jack takes a final look around the square. American flags snap in the wind, casting long shadows over the names etched into stone. Each one is a story of courage, of sacrifice, a people who believed in something bigger than themselves. And standing there, Jack knows he's done right by them. He's carried their legacy forward. The road that began with disappointment and doubt has led him here, to purpose, to leadership, to redemption. He understands now that doing the right thing doesn't always mean taking the easiest path. Sometimes it costs you everything. But in that cost lies the true measure of character, the same character that built this nation and will carry it forward. As the crowd disperses into the fading light, Jack turns to Luke and Sarah and smiles. "Doing the right thing isn't always easy," he says, his voice firm with conviction. "But it's always the American way," and with that, he walks forward into the next chapter, not as a man defined by what he's lost, but by what he's built.